So this is a song to the chief musician for the sons of Korah. We talked about that. A song upon Alamoth. That word Alamoth means, it's referencing to the higher register of notes. And so it's probably a reference to an instrument of high strings. So it was designed to be played on a particular instrument at a particular range when it was written. So the psalmist writes, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in time of trouble. Everything else is going to flow out of that, therefore, and what that looks like. And what a beautiful, powerful portrait of God we're going to see in this psalm. And for now, let's read the whole thing. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in time of trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth be removed, though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake and the swelling thereof, Selah. There is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. The heathen raged. The kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice. The earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Come, behold the works of the Lord. What desolations he hath made in the earth. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burneth the chariot in the fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Now I want you to go back to verses 2 and 3. Because God is our strength, our refuge, our help, our very present help in time of trouble. Listen to this. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth be removed, though the mountains be carried in the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake and the swelling thereof, Selah. Now here's the one single thought I want to lift out of this today. This psalmist begins by declaring who God is and that God is a refuge and a help in trouble. And then he begins to express the worst imaginable kinds of trouble that this psalmist could have experienced. The greatest sources of distress and fear would have been for the overwhelming experience of mountains being carried into the sea. I mean, the size of the earthquakes, the size of natural events that would be utterly destructive to planet Earth. Utterly destructive and terrifying to humanity. So the psalmist goes to the worst imaginable circumstances, the very worst place that he can go, and he says, no matter what, because of who my God is, I will not be afraid. Now, I don't know about you, but does your imagination ever just run away? I mean, I've kind of been all over the map, in terms of my imagination, in terms of this trial, this virus. One day my imagination tells me I'm going to contract it, and because I once had cancer, maybe I'm at higher risk, and I'm 51, so I'm middle age, and I'm going to end up on a ventilator in the hospital, and maybe I won't make it. That's my imagination, okay? Is that a real possibility? Sure it is, but it's also a real possibility that I could trip over a stair and break my head and end up in heaven the end of today. So in other words, my imagination goes nuts, right? Then my imagination one day will be, the church is going to grow through this. The next day my imagination is, people are going to stay home and watch church online. They're not going to come to church anymore. I'm telling you, my imagination can run crazy unless I bring it into subjection. And what is happening in this psalm is the psalmist is going to the worst possible imagination, the worst possible circumstances that he can think of on planet Earth. And he's saying, you know what? If mountains are thrown into the sea, if the oceans roar in overwhelming destructive power, if the whole planet falls apart, I'm still going to find my God is my refuge and my strength and my help in times of trouble. And then he comes to this word, Selah, which is not a common English word, or Selah. It's a Hebrew word. It was a musical term that meant rest, okay? It meant pause. It meant think about it, let it sink in. It also meant probably a key change. So we're gonna pick it back up. Rest, but then we're gonna resume. Okay, rest, think about it, catch your breath, and resume. And I love that word because it lets me rest in the middle of chaos. It lets me rest and look. It lets me observe. The psalmist in this psalm is watching the works of God from a safe place. And I think that's where I'll stop today. Everything he writes, he is observing from a safe place. And I want to remind you, if you have placed your faith in God, you can read this psalm and you can look at the events on planet Earth that are unfolding, not from a place of fear and not as a victim of these events. You can look at these events as an observer. You are a spectator. Yeah, to some degree, you're a participant in them. You're working, you're serving, you're blessing your family, you're praying. We're engaged in these events. But when I say we're observers, these events don't really define us, and they have really no absolute power or authority over us because we are pilgrims passing through a broken planet. This is a pilgrimage. We're on a journey to a better city. We're going to learn about that later. We have a place being prepared for us. And so we are not here to stay, and our hope is not grounded in these circumstantial things. So these things don't own us. They don't define us. Our God, he defines us, and he is our refuge. And so while I'm engaging in these events and experiencing these events, in some ways, I'm merely a spectator. They really don't have any power over me. The only power these events have over us is the power we give them in terms of our imagination by choosing to fear. And I love how the psalmist says, I'm going to the worst place in my imagination, and even there, I'm not going to fear because my God is my refuge and my very present help in time of trouble.